Good morning, Babushka. Hi. I just got home a little while ago and I texted you asking if it's okay to talk about your curiosities about when you were born. You texted me about it and I confirmed the time and everything because you were saying that, you know, you wanted your rising or whatever to be Cancer because you felt more that way than Leo. Well, you know, both of those entities challenged Hercules. They both lost, but they gave him one hell of a fight. Consider that. Look up the mythology about those. I think you might be texting me back. Let's see what you gotta say. Nope, it's somebody else. But anyways, I think I'm going to put this video out for you. I've been checking my yard. I had really good strawberries this year. Not too much, but a lot of good ones. And the herbs have been incredible. Overflowing with sage. I wonder why. Who knows? I didn't do more work than was needed. And maybe because it's been kind of a mild summer, not too hot. Last week it did pour down rain. Seems like it rains forever. And after a while I feel like my body's gonna mildew. Huh, Gus? He feels it too. Although he likes it without too much sun. You know, he doesn't like to get into the sun because it hurts his eyes. But I wanted to show you how things manifest. I always put out a ton of bird seed for the birds and whatnot because it entertains this little guy right here. And also my neighbor has an old cat across the way where she watches all the birds coming and the squirrels too through the window. She's too old to go outside, and it's great to see her look through that window, all curious and full of energy again. But out of this, I showed a little photo before it bloomed to Mississippi Talker. A sunflower sprung out of that bird seed. And then also some little spindly weedy things. I don't know, they got a ton of thorns. I don't know what they are, but they make some kind of seed that they like to eat. When I have time later on, because I took a photo of them, I'll look up and see. Maybe I'll find out what they are. But yeah, when you were born on May 30th, 1992. And yes, you were born at 9:50 in the morning. What a journey that was. And I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about you. Because you were 2 weeks late. You were actually due around May 10th, around Mother's Day. But you didn't want to come out. Nope. You were way too stubborn. And I remember I worked and I went to school. Yeah, I worked full time, at least 30 hours a week. I had to keep the rent paid and all of that fun stuff. So your dad wasn't really helping out. He tried. In the beginning, he really did try. But what are you going to do, you know? That's another story. And we'll probably talk about that later on down the road. I already know your opinion about him. But there were parts of him that were really good too. But yeah, I went to school too. Boy, I remember your grandfather, my dad, told me when he found out I was going to have you. He said, you know, you're a woman now. And he goes, I know you're going to make it. And he reminded me of a time when I was young. And I was sitting on his lap, and we were talking about children and becoming a parent or becoming a mom. And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, you know, when you give birth, you're going to be like one of those Native American women where they're riding the horse, not side saddle either. And when they're ready to give birth, they get off the horse and they go out past the wood line and have the baby. And then put the baby in the papoose and get back on the horse and keep riding. He knew my work ethic. And he knew in a way that every time I would endure pain, even though I might throw a fit about it or cry, whether I would fall off my bike, you know, and get all scraped up on the sidewalk or on a dirt road. Or one time I got, you know, bucked off of an old horse. She was being stubborn. And I think I was leading her too close to some blackberry bushes. She knocked me off. And he saw from the porch. But I didn't throw a fit. I was just a little stunned. But I brushed the dirt off of me. And I got back on. But yeah, with you, it was wonderful. In the first month, it was hard to keep down any food at all, even an apple. And sometimes I would get a huge migraine headache, but as soon as I would get sick to the stomach, and I learned how to time it in class, I knew how to be excused out of class, go run and do it, come back, and continue on. Same with my job, but as soon as I would get sick, migraine headache would go away and I would be fine. And then I got advice from an Asian woman about drinking raspberry leaf tea. So I went to that herbal shop where I find those wonderful oils that you and I both love too, over at Tenzing Momo at the Pike Place Market. So I got some raspberry leaves, made tea. Morning sickness went away right away. Then I felt beautiful as it developed. But yeah, towards the end, on my due date actually, May 10th, I was in one of my favorite classes, actually the only instructor who displayed my art in one of the special windows for everybody to see. And he loved the fact that I wanted to study the old artists during the times of surrealism and whatnot, in the beginnings of advertising around the turn of the last century. But I left to go get supplies and stuff, and then somebody mentioned that it was my due date, and he began to panic, thinking I was on my way to the hospital or something because I wasn't in class. And one of my partners that I worked with in class, he was laughing his ass off. And he was like, no, today's supposed to be her due date. But she'll be right back. She just went to go grab something. So funny. But yeah, you wouldn't come out. And I wouldn't have blamed you. But I kept going. People gave me different ideas on what to do. One woman told me to try lifting a car or to eat a lot of salmon. You know, I don't know. It was funny though. When it was finally time and I got to the hospital, University of Washington, it was a real hot day. Oh my goodness, it was hot as hell. May 29th. I waited patiently in the room, surrounded by other women. Nurses were all freaking out. I was waiting for my doctor, but she was busy handling another person giving birth, another woman. It was funny. There was one nurse in particular, nice lady, tall, really long, dark hair. She stuck with me. And I was chewing on a cold, wet wash rag because I wasn't allowed to drink anything. They were afraid that if I did go into labor, I might get sick. And then I would continue walking up and down the hallways, try and get the gravity going so you would go. And I could feel you in me. It was around the time, when you dropped, it was real slow. You really did take your time. And it was funny too, because the nurse was explaining to me that a full moon was coming. And she was all nervous as hell. And she's like, it's going to be so busy. She's looking around going, do you see? All these women are in labor. And it's true. It was crowded. And there were women who had come in after me, and they'd be sitting in wheelchairs, or they'd go outside and actually smoke a cigarette. I wasn't doing that at all. I actually started doing a little bit of jumping jacks too to try and get you going. Made your dad nervous. He was there. The nurse stuck with me. She kept coming in and out of the room through all the crowd of people. She was determined that I see this through. And she's like, I'm coming upon my second shift. But I don't care, I'm going to stick around. They needed the extra labor that night anyways from the workers like her. Damn. So, around that time, let's see, I think I went into the hospital around 4 p.m. By midnight, I couldn't handle the labor pains anymore. They would measure them from a level of 1 to 10 as far as pain goes. And then pretty soon, level 4 felt like a level 10 or worse. But I would hang on, bear the pain. Then after midnight sometime, by this time, that nurse, she agreed to stick around even longer and work like a third shift. Incredible lady. She made sure that I got my foot in the door, so to speak. Wouldn't abandon me. She was pissed off that all these other women were going ahead of me too. But I stayed positive. A little bit after midnight, they asked me if I needed some help along with having ya. They told me it was too late to induce the birth with an epidural. but they said that they would consider something called a spinal, which would help numb me. Then they could induce it. And I said, oh God, yes. I can't handle it anymore. It was an okay pain though, but I was exhausted. It took out all my energy. And I remember a male nurse coming in, a specialist, and he put the needle of the medicine somewhere in my back, along my spine, and accidentally hit a nerve, and I could see my heartbeat monitor. Oh my gosh. So I have really, really low blood pressure, like you wouldn't believe. And it's freaked out people before. But then all of a sudden I saw the monitor, and my heartbeat went from normal, slow. All of a sudden, brrr. Think the male nurse was a little nervous because your dad was observing the whole thing. But he fixed it and we made it through. And yeah, I remember looking at the clock. I remember pushing. I remember your father telling me to push along with the doctor. And yeah, I remember the clock saying 9 o'clock, then 9:30. And I just stayed ultra focused. And then it happened. And I remember your first cry. And then soon after, I was eating breakfast. I was eating breakfast with you in my arm. And I was feeding you too. In the waiting room, there was another woman. Wonderful, wonderful lady. About my age. And she had a baby boy. She had a cesarean, and she couldn't get up to do anything. And even though I had one of those, female pads, the big ones, it's like a diaper, while I was healing, I had so much energy during that time. And the nurses had taken you to measure you and to check up on you, and then they'd bring you back to me. But in the meantime, I would run over for this lady because she was 2 weeks after the cesarean birth. She couldn't go and get things, So she'd give me a couple of bucks in change, and I'd run over to one of the machines to grab her a soda pop or, a bag of chips or something, Or I'd bring her like a glass of water or something. I'm like, well, the nurse isn't around. I'll get up and do it for you. And then the next day, we prepared to take you home. And it was okay. But damn, girl, your mom, I know, at times it would really upset you. But I am a workaholic. And I had to keep going. I only took about, 4 or 5 days off from work. And about 4 days off from school. Incredible. But it's okay. For a while there, I had your father to help me out. And then I planned way ahead of time to make sure that you had a decent babysitter. And just to keep going. So there you go. And these are in the china cabinet, or one of them is anyways. One of your first shoes. And another important thing too, I think you should know, your grandfather John and I, we were learning to come to terms with each other during that time. And we would continue talking on the phone, not all the time, but once in a while. We'd talk about things that your Aunt Jewel and your uncles didn't even know about. But he was wanting so much to come up and visit. I wanted to go down there and visit him, but too busy. At the time, I just didn't want to drive either, and then just too much on my plate. But after a year and a half, he finally got Uncle Eddie to drive him up here to come and see you. And he came into my apartment and saw you. Eddie had wheeled him in his wheelchair, and then as soon as he got over the bump of the front door, he was wheeling so fast. And he held you, and he loved the fact that I had another pair of shoes for you. Little pair of Doc Martens. A little pair of romper stompers with rainbow stitching around the rubber sole. He loved it because those shoes reminded him of the kind that children would wear, just regular black leather shoes with the rubber soles back in the day when he was little, like something out of the Little Rascals. And he was impressed. He held you, and you kind of stood up on his, on his lap. You were standing there, and then you sat down on his lap. You had one of your fingers, your thumb, in your mouth. You were sucking your thumb at him. And then you reached up with your other hand, and you grabbed his glasses off his face. You took his glasses away. And then as you did that, he began to cry. He was so happy. And then he started to kiss you all over your forehead. That was a really good memory. So, whatever your sign is, rising or what have you, just be proud of who you are. Okay? And remember to have all that list ready when you go to your doctor. I know you have a lot on your plate, and you're in the middle of transition, and we're dealing with this social disaster still. It just won't let go, will it? Eventually things will be all right, and you're going to come out really well. And just remember, I love you so much, and I hope to talk to you soon. And if you have any questions about this video, just text me, whatever you want to do. Okay? And keep on keeping on, girlfriend. Remember to ring the bell. Bye.